Okay guys, today let's talk staging. So I was actually just talking to a seller whose house had been on the market, before for almost a year, and it had expired, and it's a vacant home because he lives in another state now and he just wants to get it sold. And I come across this a lot in the Ithaca area because it's such a transient town, and you have a lot of people that buy properties here to rent out, as income properties, and now they're just sitting empty and they want to sell them. Or a lot of times they have houses down south, like in Florida, they're snowbirds and they're ready to just permanently make the move down there. And here their house is sitting empty, and just for a myriad of reasons. We just have a lot of vacant homes, homes where no one is living in them right now and not really using them. And so there is a huge opportunity to utilize staging when it comes to the listing process in these homes. So anyway, I'm talking to the seller and he tells me that his last agent told him that staging, specifically staging and professional photography, were not necessary and were basically useless in the Ithaca market because no one really does it. So there was no reason for him to do it. And I thought, what a crazy concept. Just because no one else in our market is doing it, not very often, at least we don't see it too much, doesn't mean that it has no place here. Statistically speaking, staging sells houses faster and for more money, which is of course, what a seller ultimately wants. And I will very much argue that because we don't see it too often in our market, it's a huge opportunity for the seller's house to stand out among, all the other listings on the market and all of their competition, so to speak. So I talk about staging in reference to vacant homes in particular, just because there's kind of a feeling when you walk into a vacant home and it's empty and it has no furniture and no one's been living there. Maybe it smells a little kind of dusty, mildewy, whatever it is. There's not fresh air going in and out every day. There's just there's no love or family life or, any kind of personal touch. It's important to remember that when a buyer makes an offer on a home, they finally decide this is the right one, we're going to write it up, we're going to offer X amount of money. It's just as much an emotional decision, if not more so, than a logical one. So when a buyer walks into a house and it doesn't have all those, sights and smells and sounds and feelings of home, they just don't have that emotional pull towards it, and they don't have this strong desire necessarily to make an offer. So actually, it was my first vacant listing that I took the opportunity to stage. And this house had been on the market off and on for like 3 years. It was an expired listing, had been with lots of different companies, on and off, on and off. It had gone under contract a couple times and fallen out, during inspection, and it just, nothing was sticking. And this poor couple, they were living down in Florida now. This house was sitting empty. They had a couple, chairs and things in the house, but otherwise no one was there. No one was living in it. But I went in and I scrubbed the whole place and made it smell and look, really nice and clean and fresh. And then I thought, this is a perfect house, the perfect opportunity to try some staging. The price point of this home was in the lower 200,000s, so it was a really good starter home for a family, the right size for it. So I decided to make one room a nursery because I think there's a lot of an emotional touch, when you see baby things and you're growing a family, and just thinking with the buyer in mind. I went through, the living room needed a new staging, the dining room needed it, the kitchen needed a few things here and there, and those were the biggest spaces basically. And I made this list. I went and I got U-Haul. I loaded up all the furniture that I had been stockpiling in this sort of staging inventory. And I had my husband and some of his stronger friends help me move everything into the house and set it up. And we started, first thing in the morning, and we're there basically all night between moving everything and getting it all in. And it was funny because at one point I had my husband and my daughter there as we were cleaning up and putting things together. And this family across the street walked over and asked if we were moving in because we had this big U-Haul and we're moving furniture in. So of course that's a logical explanation. And they were so sweet, and it was this really great opportunity to kind of get to know the neighbors and get to know the neighborhood even more. But at the end of it, the house really felt like a home. There are so many little touches that you can do, like adding, flowers and new welcome mat. We revamped the mulch. We put down some new mulch because it was looking a little dead and dry outside. We set the table, lots of little things in addition to, the big furniture. And looking back at the old listings and the furniture placement, and it was just a whole new house. Originally when you walked in this house, it seemed like the layout was kind of odd and you weren't quite sure what to do with your furniture or what to make of it and how to make it, a useful, functional space. And afterward, it was just so warm and inviting. And you could really see how everything fit and how you would use that home. So after that, of course, we went through, did the professional photography, videography, everything that goes into the listing process. And it was 5 days after it hit the market, it got a full price offer, which was huge for these sellers because one, we had raised the list price. They'd done a little bit of work to it, and I felt that the comp supported it. And two, because this house had been on the market for so many years, off and on, and we had an offer right away, which was great. We still had to get through the inspection contingency, and remember, this house had fallen out of contract a couple times based on the inspection. So the buyers had it done. They came back asking for some concessions, and ultimately the seller said, it won't, we can't offer anything it doesn't work for our family. We're going to, leave it at the list price that you're offering, no concessions, and that's that. We had to consider that they might back out because of that, but in the end, they decided to, keep the home and stay with it. And I think that staging and that emotional aspect to the listing just really pulled them into the house and made them connect with it so that they weren't so quick to just toss this contract away. Since then, I've really seen it time and again where staging has made a huge difference in the listing of a home. I mean, the biggest example are expired listings, which I do work with a lot, just because you can see, the before, how they were, how they looked online, how they looked when you showed the house versus now, and the difference in how fast they sold and for how much money. And the statistics that say, yes, staged homes sell faster and for more money are absolutely true. And they absolutely hold that same amount of truth in the Ithaca market. And anytime that I talk to a seller, we go through their house and we talk about what can be done to get the home sold. And it's not just vacant homes that benefit from staging, because staging can really mean a whole range of things, from, yes, moving a ton of furniture in and doing the whole house up, to simply just declutterizing, neutralizing, making the space feel as clean and warm and inviting as possible. Sometimes it's just a matter of clearing the countertops of everything that's on them, taking all the fridge magnets off the fridge, opening a space up, moving some furniture around from room to room. There are just so many details that we go over case by case when it comes to listing a home. But definitely do not discredit the value of staging and what it can do to get your house sold. And it's not that an unstaged home is never going to sell. It's, most simply that a staged home is going to sell faster and for more money. So that's it for our little blurb today. I hope it was helpful and you learned something. If you have any questions at all about the staging process or the listing process in general, please feel free to reach out, ask any questions, leave comments below, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks.